Hi guys, this is Alex. Today's episode is going to feature a combination of my own video footage that I've taken on my travels, as well as footage that is paid for by a range of other creatives that I source from artgrid.co, I think it is. This is not something I plan to do in the future because it's just hard work splicing together all of this footage, but I like the idea of having a visual element to my podcasts which appear on any film-related platform like YouTube. I find that video can spur new ideas and new insights as one is listening to the audio. This might be complete hogswash, in which case please let me know, but I think for having my audio material on a video platform, I think it's much preferable, maybe in terms of my own vanity, to have visual footage that you can watch alongside listening to me chatting. Obviously, if you're listening to this through a podcasting platform, feel free to just ignore what I've just been telling you. That's just the way things are at the moment. In future, I hope to add more scenes of nature and just ongoing footage that I gather through just leaving a camera running for longer periods so that I can just add one or two clips to any one podcast and I don't have to worry about adding hundreds of tiny little pieces of short footage to the thing. Anyway, today's topic is a little discussion about my foray into paid coaching as a freelance business and as a means to support my nomadic travel around the world, but also as a source of great fulfillment and wealth building, of course, and joy and meeting other people through the business and all kinds of good benefits that I'll go into. So to start off the story, let's go back in my early 20s. I had completed a geography degree at UCL in London. I came out of that course not knowing what I could do with a course that essentially was the study of everything. Anyone who knows geography knows that, especially at university level, you're learning bits and bobs of all aspects of the planet, be it geopolitics, geomorphology, the geographies of fear, all kinds of stuff related to nature and land movements and landmarks, but it goes into human stuff as well. So it's a real mix match of stuff that you are forced to cram into before any period of examination. And then of course you forget everything. So I came out of that degree not having much of a clue as to where I wanted to be with my own life, because I had only just taken on a much bigger batch of crammed in knowledge. And having been watching lots of property programs that I fell in love with, like Grand Designs and Property Ladder, I had the property development itch. So by the time I got out of university at 21, I had been watching all these Sarah Beanie programs and really was excited about the idea of building stuff from scratch, building new properties and making some money from property development. That seemed interesting and fun to me at the time. And I felt that geography was possibly a suitable foundation, at least, since it was, studying geography, studying the land, studying the earth. It seemed to be a fairly good link. So I decided to jump into a real estate course. It was actually a master's degree at the University of Reading. So, no small chickens here. And I took on that course. It was a distance learning course. So I was studying that part-time as I was working a job as a property researcher for a magazine. So I was spending time on the phone with agents, gathering information that would be used in paid magazines for companies that needed to keep track of what was happening in London in terms of what was being built in the real estate sphere, what was being sold, all that kind of data I was gathering for that. And during that time, because I had a bit of time left over to sort of muck around with software that I had pirated off the web, like Adobe Illustrator, and courses that I was, again, pirating. Sorry, guys. Learning about how to make illustrations, digital illustrations, using the power of computing, I was spending time as well, and I forgot to mention that I've always loved art and always loved drawing and always loved creating. And I had read The 4-Hour Workweek and other books about making passive income and making money online, and I figured, let's do this in a different way. Let's make money through earning stock royalties from selling my illustrations online. So I put together this portfolio gradually of illustrations on a stock photography website called iStockPhoto. And funnily enough, having added hundreds and hundreds of illustrations over time, I started to build up a nice little passive income selling my illustrations over and over again for royalties to designers and people who would use my illustrations in various publications. And at one point it was paying for the rent. It was doing that well. I was making that much income from the illustration royalties I was selling to pay 100% the rather high rents that I was paying even at the time back in the early 2000s. I'm around 23 at this time. So over time, I was still working for this property magazine, and I was also earning money as an illustrator, sort of indirectly. I wasn't getting any commissions yet, but over time, clients did notice me, and I started getting paid client work through clients all over the world who discovered my work on the internet. And I gradually realized that, especially with a flat property market and the credit crunch and the recession happening, real estate didn't seem as shiny and interesting as it once did, and I decided to take advantage of the interest that people were showing in my illustration talents being in quotes, of course, although decide for yourself. If you look at my stuff online, Alex Mathers, Mathers, you'll find lots of illustrations, old and new. iStock is probably the place you'd find my earlier illustrations. I decided to jump head first into a freelance illustration career, and I basically worked as an illustrator ever since, although for the last couple of years it's been a lot more sporadic and I barely do any paid illustration work for reasons that I will go into shortly. Over time, I learnt a lot as an independent business person. There were many ups and downs, many frustrations and struggles in working as a freelance illustrator. Very difficult to find clients for half the time, because it's sort of feast and famine deal whereby you get a client that notices you, you end up doing work for them, and of course you spend all that time not marketing yourself, and by the time the job's finished you have no interest in your work, you haven't done any drumming up of business, and there are no clients out there, so you can possibly go days, weeks, even months without client work or any money coming in. So it's a very up and down type of business, although the stuff that I would be teaching others about how to run an illustration business in later years was based on these ups and downs, and took ideas out of these ups and downs to try and alleviate that. Basically, everything that I had learnt as an independent freelance illustrator, I wanted to give back to other creatives, and this is what led to the birth of my first ebook called 10 Steps to Powerful Online Self-Promotion for Creatives. This is an ebook that I put together, again, in an attempt to make a nice passive income. Passive income is never as easy as it seems, of course, but I did sell a good 200 copies, and it was a nice introductory foray into the world of online digital product creation. Red Lemon Club was the blog that was actually spurred on after the creation of that book as a means to promote the book, and over time I used that blog as a channel through which I would share information to help other creatives. And I found that at the time, when I was sort of 24, 25, early days of being an illustrator, I found very little support in terms of how to build a business and how to market your business for creatives and illustrators in particular, which is why I spent a lot of the next few years helping other illustrators and other creatives and designers build and market their businesses through Red Lemon Club, and also, building this blog with the intention of making it a business and a nice side hustle, and potentially a bigger, main source of my income through selling products. These were fun times, and for the most part, during my 20s, this activity of creating digital products and various entrepreneurial schemes online, coupled with the illustration income, kept me alive for the duration of my 20s and was a lot of fun, although, as I said, I never quite got to the point where I was earning a nice consistent income. And I think this is a common complaint of many freelancers as well as entrepreneurs and businesses, is that they struggle with that consistent flow of income. It's either feast or famine. And I found this right up until, gosh, how old would I have been? Maybe 29, when I was living in Vietnam. I lived in Ho Chi Minh City for about a year. And these ups and downs followed me over there. I came to a point, I remember, I think it was around June or July of 2014, I had become very complacent, shall we say, with my tracking and monitoring of what I was earning as a freelancer. And I had discovered that an enormous tax bill had been sent my way in the summer of 2014 based on a pretty lucrative year from the year before. And I think because I'd done particularly well through illustration commissions in 2013, I had forgotten about the nature of tax and the fact that they tax you you will have to pay the tax in the following year of the year in which you made the money, if that makes sense. So I was slapped with a really big tax bill, a surprisingly big tax bill that I didn't expect, which was obviously a lot more. So I found myself in the summer of 2014 in hot Vietnam having to deal with a tax bill. I think it was about $10,000 that I had to pay. It was in excess of $10,000, so I had, it was even more than that. And I had to find that $10,000 within about 2 weeks. Okay, this taught me a huge lesson about needing to keep track of your income and what you're paying and what kinds of taxes you need to cover. And by the end of July, I had to find this money. So this got me in a panic mode, and I had to figure out a way very, very quickly as an illustrator doing okay but not amazingly to find the money quickly. And the problem with illustration and working as an illustrator is, as many other designers will attest to, is that it's very difficult to instantly find money through that kind of work. The nature of the illustration industry is such that you will very rarely have someone, a client, want you to provide illustration services for them the moment you ask for it. So if you find yourself thinking, oh gosh, I need a job, I need money now, I'll just ask someone whether they want me to provide illustration services for them. People rarely need it at the time you ask for it, because illustration is a very sort of cyclical thing. People need it at certain times of the year depending on their business style. So I asked around a lot whether people wanted some illustration work. I think I got maybe 1 or 2 little jobs, but nothing tremendous that would cover that bill. So I ended up having to get very serious and having to face my fears and dealing with and having to brainstorm some ideas on what I could do, and thinking on, okay, what experiences have I had? What knowledge do I have that I can help people with, that I can charge money for? And that's where I came up with the idea of providing an appraisal report product called Client Accelerator. That was the name I geniusly gave it, which was a service that me and a friend that I'd made over in Vietnam provided. She was a social media consultant, and I was a marketing expert for illustrators and designers at the time. Because I'd been writing a lot about it, and I've become known as an expert kind of on sort of online marketing for particularly creative businesses. So I decided to put together this report providing setup where I put together this landing page that detailed exactly what problems you might be having, and using all that kind of typical copywriting lingo and saying, are you struggling with getting clients? Well, you have found the right person. Alex and Anna can help you figure out your problems and work out how on earth you can turn your business around in 7 days. So it was basically this sort of, okay, we'll have a look at your social media setup, we'll have a look at your portfolio, I'll have a look at your illustration style or your design portfolio, your website, your about page, every aspect of your business that we can see online. We'll take a look for, I think it was $100 or $200, no, $250 it was. $250 US we charged for a pretty in-depth appraisal, which we put into maybe a 10-page report that we would then send to them. And because I had set up, thankfully over the last decade, a newsletter, an email list of subscribers that I had collected through giving away stuff and prompting people to get onto in order to keep track of my material and my blog posts. Luckily, I had a big, fairly decent market of people who were interested in gaining insight into improving their own online creative businesses. So I had a market there, and it didn't take too long for me to sell a few copies of that, or not copies, but sold a few of those appraisals. So maybe like 10 or 20 or even 30 of those appraisals I managed to sell, but I don't think it made enough. So that was great. That was a nice foray into the world of quickly coming up with a product online, and how amazing actually it is, especially if you have the support of your own newsletter, and how beneficial the internet obviously is to turn things around quickly. But I needed more money, so on top of that I realized, I need to really face my fears here and take on one-to-one coaching. Basically sitting in front of someone on Skype or face-to-face, going a little bit more hands-on with helping them with their business or their health or their life, improving their situation, maybe helping them with their goals. But of course, because I had become known as an illustration marketing coach, that was the form of coaching that I decided to take on. So again, I used my list. I told people that I was doing this face-to-face coaching through Skype, once a week, calls of an hour. I managed to drum up a few more clients that way, and that of course got me over the $10,000 limit, and thankfully I was saved just in time for paying that tax bill. So heavens be praised, I figured it out. And that of course got me into the world of coaching people face to face. I could go into this in a lot more detail in so many other videos, but coaching has taught me a lot. It has been a really rewarding experience because it gets you away from hiding away, so to speak, and only working on one side of the computer and doing your own things and sort of not really interacting too much, especially if you're an illustrator or you're a writer like I was up until that point. You don't really interact much, and as an introvert who enjoys my solitude, my goodness, I wasn't getting out much at all. So coaching was a fantastic way to not only make money quickly, and this is the beauty of coaching that I hadn't covered, which is the fact that you can charge your money up front, whereas with illustration, the nature of the business is such that you have to land the job, create the work first, and in some instances charge for the deposit, but that would be about it. And then finally, two months or 3 months later, get the money for it. So there was always a delay with illustration projects, which really sucked. But with coaching, you can get someone on a call. Maybe it's a free call, and you treat it as a sort of a sales chat. So you would talk about their problems and what they need help with, and then you would ask for the money up front then and there. And it was a great way to interact with new people, and there's a lot of fulfillment, especially through what I found in just helping people along and helping them see a transformation in their businesses and their lives. It was a very fulfilling and rewarding part of what I did, and I ended up doing a lot of coaching from that point on until the present day, although until recently I haven't done as much. I'll talk about why that is in another video, but coaching has been fantastic. It might be something you look into in terms of supplementing your current career, or maybe doing it as a full career. There were many things I learned, positives and negatives, that I have taken into a new phase of coaching that I'm about to take on, that I'm really excited about sharing with you, which addresses a lot of the problems that I had faced with my initial coaching, namely the fact that it would take a lot of work and a lot of free consultations in order to get any sales, any clients whatsoever, because not everyone that you first talk to explain your services to is going to be a match and is going to want to pay you up front for your services, especially if they haven't met you yet. So it's not all sunshine and rainbows, but I remember getting in front of maybe 10, 20 people when I needed to get my business up and running or business moving, and landing, 3, 4 clients. So it was a very cost intensive, or whatever you term it, business initially. But of course it can get a lot better than that with expertise and skills that I've now gotten a lot better at. And the problem with the way that I was doing it was that I was getting people on a long, hour-long call, and many of them I would just chat to, and it would be a used up hour. They wouldn't end up paying for the service, and I would lose that client. And I would, have wasted effectively that hour, although of course I treat every hour of chatting as experience. And then, of course, I would charge them month by month, which meant that if they felt that they had had enough training after that month and didn't want to be reminded of having to pay more money for consecutive months, those clients would inevitably fade away. And I've since learned about how to keep clients on board and keep them motivated and keep them in the loop and keep them aware of why it is important to have a coach guiding them for longer periods and all kinds of things to do with booking in clients for longer set periods so that you don't have to keep dealing with the same issue that I was having as an illustrator, is with the feast or famine up and down approach of getting a client 1 month and then finding yourself losing clients after that. You really want to be in a situation where you have a handful of clients with you for a longer period, so you don't have to keep going through the sales process over and over again and dealing with the frustration of that. These are all things I'm really excited to go into more detail on, dealing with a lot more of the details behind how it all works, how to coach. And a lot of you guys are listening for the stuff dedicated more to the men's stuff, so I'm going to be sort of dedicating my material to two things. One is becoming better men and navigating a complicated modern world for men, and secondly, how to become a coach specifically for men. So there is a lot of overlap there, and I look forward to sharing a lot more about coaching with you guys in future. But I think that's going to be it for this day's session. Just a little introductory story that really briefly covers how I got from geography student all the way through illustration career, then blogging career, then into more intensive coaching, and now of course this daily audio and video production. So if you've got any questions or feedback, always interested to hear more. I want to know what you think of not only what I'm talking about and whether you've got questions about what I'm talking about and what you want to hear more about, but also the setup, whether you like the visuals in the video form, whether you like the way that I'm doing the podcasts, all kinds of little things I'd love to hear about, because I'm still consider myself a student. Every day I feel like I'm starting from scratch. So do help me with my progress so that I can help you in the best way possible. Really looking forward to chatting more with you guys, and I will see you in tomorrow's session.